So what I will talk about, or I'll get us started, since there's just 3 of us today. I was at attended the all call last week and talked about wanting to build a entrepreneurship hub at APU, and that went over really well. So I told the people on the call that I was going to be reaching out for mentors to help our students with their projects, and that was received really, really well. So I feel like that creating this hub at APU will be, my goal, of course, is to create that on-ramp for our students and staff and faculty to enter into the ecosystem. And I also am talking to Peter up at Center Ice for some collaborations, potential collaborations there too. So I'm really excited to start breaking out of that silo. I think all the university programs are so siloed. It would be just amazing to break them out of the silos and start cross-institution collaborations. But I especially like that idea for APU because we are so deeply siloed that I think there's a lot of really good ideas and really, really smart people at APU that just aren't connected and don't realize that they have something more that they can contribute to the ecosystem. So hopefully something will come of that. And since I have such a light load in the spring, I'm so excited. I actually am going to have time to really bite into this and make something happen. So that is my update for this week. Good morning, Elijah.
Yeah, how are you doing? I'm pretty well, just wintering away. Nothing much going on, just I don't know, feeling more need for socializing and community and stuff, and just kind of looking at what my options are for that. Yeah, as well as, this entrepreneurial kind of conversations. Yeah, still just wanting to figure out how to do that, where the community of people that wants to build and make things are, and how we can get together and actually do some of that. But I don't know, just and I hope it's not going fully into the metaverse, but I don't know, it might be time for me to drop in, at least into Discord a little harder, I think. But anyway, that's all that's going on with me.
Yeah, thanks, Elijah. And Andy, thank you for getting things kicked off while I was able to eat my breakfast real fast. Much appreciated. For let's see here, the things that are kind of sticking out for me today, or that I've been working on a little bit, there's I have just been thinking a bit about the holidays and about kind of like the momentum that has been building. I've just kind of like felt like this energy starting to build as fall came to a close, and I'm feeling a little bit of like this mismatch where I'm like, I'm ready, I'm very excited, but it's the holidays, and like, the reality is like at my day job, like 40% of the company is taking time off next week. And so the possibility of like actually doing a whole lot of anything is very little. And the reality is that is a good thing. This is a really, really nice time for us to reconnect as community, for us to come together and to celebrate and, share a little food, share a little time together, share a little space. I agree with Elijah. I hope that it is not all metaverse. because I really like in-person stuff. That's really nice. And I miss that. So I'm excited for more of that to continue to happen over the coming year. I guess if I had, maybe we can do another round after this to talk about some of the gifts that we've found over the past year. So I think I'll hold my gift for now and just say thanks, y'all. I appreciate this time to gather, and I get a lot of energy out of it. It's really a highlight of my week. So thank you. And Pasquale, I think that leaves you.
Yeah, that leads me. Wow, let's see. How we start? I think in this week and the next week, I'm seeing quite a few of business and as well as people kind of shutting down in a sense that they are probably prepping for Christmas. And I mean, so am I myself too, wrapping up a few things here and there. So I think it's kind of normal. We have a few seasons in a few weeks in the year where Alaska can slow down a little bit between Christmas as well as the salmon run. That's another one. People take time off for. So I took that as a it's normal. And also we have shorter days now, so that kind of once we go over the 21st, at least myself, I recognize that my energy boosts are more frequent with or without vitamin D. So and without coffee, surprisingly, I can function without coffee. But anyway, going back to what we were talking about, there has been this week, last week actually, a good conversation with Margie about native way of structure, how they organize themselves, how they take decisions, how they talk about the issues that they have. And I have to be honest, just to summarize, it greatly surprised me. It really surprised me how much I was not aware of, how different some structures are, how they operate. And that got me thinking, just within that short meeting that we have, how many things have been less effective because probably those aspects were not considered. And it is a way deeper, longer conversation that we have today. And I would love for her to be here too, to complement, because I'm pretty sure that I got probably 80% of what she said. But I wanted to leave on the table that yes, native is not just needed to be added into the conversation, but also need to be understood, because it is not exactly the same way of thinking, acting, deciding, organizing than we are used to, or at least I am used to. So without that, it's going to be hard to be useful to them. Any decisions that we make useful to them or have the impact that we think, as well as we will be leaving out of the conversation powerful voices and important decisions if they don't have a place in this organization and in this decision or in this process. So my question is, besides telling you guys that I was greatly surprised and I'm really happy we had that conversation, and I'm pretty sure that we just scratched the surface, how can we integrate them in this organization in a way that we are useful to them as well as to us in a symbiotic relationship? That will be my question. Because as far as we can see today, we don't have anybody that represents that culture or belongs to that culture. And probably it's time that we start thinking about it and taking action about it. I'll stop it there.
I would like to comment on that. I have encouraged some of my students who are Alaska Native Indigenous students to join AKV3, and they haven't, but that's something. APU is working towards being a tribal university, and so one of the things that I am hoping to do with our hub is to also recognize and support the needs of our Indigenous students, and hopefully get them more, with an on-ramp, hopefully get them more involved in the ecosystem as well. And you're very right, Pasquale. One of the things that really changed my understanding of my my Indigenous students is in understanding that their culture is a storytelling culture and not a written word. It's a spoken word culture. And I have found that my students who live in the villages do not come across the way that we expect students to come across in written works. And so I tend to adapt to them and try to bring, I'll have conversations with them to get what I'm looking for out of them, and then I'll grade them based on what they tell me in conversation, rather than requiring them to have to translate to written word. But we don't do a good job as an institution of supporting that. I do, I try to, but we don't do it as an institution. So that's something that I'm hoping that we can learn and gain through this hub at APU, is understanding how better to support and meet the needs of our Alaska Native entrepreneurs, rather than requiring them to cross the road to meet us. We need to either at least meet them in the middle, if not cross the road to meet them. And it's the same with our disabled entrepreneurs, exactly the same. We need to do a better job of, instead of expecting everybody to come over to our side of the road, we need to do a better job of meeting people where they are. And so I'm really glad you brought that up, Pasquale, because I think we do need to be a little more intentional about reaching out to the underrepresented communities and finding out where they are and meeting them where they are, and finding out what we can do to support them in growing their enterprises here in Alaska, for sure. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you both. This is really, it's really resonating with me, and you're really hitting on a theme of my week, which has been the importance of integration and the importance of like that connection and that collaboration. And I think about the gifts that I've received over the past year, and like what I've really learned, how I've really grown. It's the openness and willingness of people to collaborate and to come together and cooperate. I think there's a lot of benefit that comes from that. I really value that. I really value that connection. And I think it's important that our institutions that we create, the activities that we participate in, that they are inclusive. And I think that inclusion doesn't just look like, hey, there's an open door if you want to walk through it, but you got to play by my rules at my time, and here's how we're going to talk and what it's going to look like. It's like, hey, your perspective is valuable. How would you feel comfortable joining? How do you think that you would engage with something like this? What do you think is missing? What do you think that you need? and this is a theme that just keeps coming up in different conversations and in different challenges, and with some of the infrastructure funding that is going to be available through the Build Back Better initiative. I think there's a real big opportunity that when we're making decisions for communities, that when we look around the room at the decision makers, that we try to figure out who's missing, and then we try to pull them into the conversations. We try to make sure that everyone's voice in the community is heard, because we want our communities to be inclusive and to be a place for everyone here. One of the things I think about that kind of keeps coming up for me is Elijah's call for housing not to just look like the cookie cutter subdivisions that are available in the lower 48, but to think about, what is it that we want our houses and our communities to look like? What is it that we need? And I think that we're going to be having to ask that question and really put some thought into that, because we're going to have a bunch of infrastructure work that's going to need to be done. And we've got there's a skills shortage. There's not enough trained up people who can do the work that is going to need to be done in all the regions, in Alaska and around the US. And so, like, how do we help train up the people who are already here? And then how do we help bring in the people who are outside? Well, knowing that you've got a job is great, but like, you also need to know what the culture is like in this place. And are you going to feel like you belong there? And you're also going to need to know that you can find some housing. And so, like, what does this housing look like? What does this feel like? What does our community look like? How do we share that with other people? How do we talk about this place that we live, this place that we want to see our state be, our country be?
That's a good point, Ryan. And I was thinking this week about starting with the conversation that we had, that I mentioned before, also connecting with what you are saying, Eli, about the metaverse, and also with the conversation I had with a different person that they got somehow related. Well, I have to repeat the most important thing I've said in the whole meeting. Yes, just kidding. Back in probably 40 years ago, the geographical distance literally isolated those communities. So it was hard to have any transfer of knowledge, skills, even materials. Nowadays, we have one important thing already resolved, which is the communication part. We can transfer skills, we can train via internet. Not as much as phone, but via internet. We have phone was okay, but you cannot transfer images, videos via phone. So it's just words. And if you add the language barrier or the culture barrier, then the communication becomes even more challenging. But nowadays, with internet, you can train a technician to be a technician with YouTube, with videos, with materials, educational materials. So they can learn something that they were not able to learn before to develop whatever they need to develop, they want to develop. We can provide that. And by we, I'm not trying to be patronizing. I'm saying because we have higher speeds, more access to that, so we can kind of help them filter through the content, so they get the good material they need, and they don't use that bandwidth. They use it for whatever it's worth it and has value to them. So we basically do the work for them, to their service, not to tell them what they need to learn or not. They can always ask. And when it comes to energy, the same and in the same dimension. 20, 30 years ago, some technologies were prohibitive because of the efficiency, because of the cost. Nowadays, they are not anymore. So they've gained in the past 10 years two important things. One is access to knowledge. Second is access to technologies, energy, specifically. And sorry, when I was referring to what Elia was saying, the metaverse. If at some point that gets developed enough within our lifetime, which I'm pretty sure it will, it will allow them to actually get immersed in that learning process, in that developing process, because they will be able to live, I mean, personally feel like they are inside. I'm going to put an example. Let's say that they need to work on their sewer system. They don't know how to do that unless they see it, unless they, I mean, I wouldn't know how to do that just because I read a book. But if somebody can create the training or the environment where they can actually practice and, hey, this is what happens when a pipe bursts, what would you do? And actually go through the experience of, oh, we need to do that. Where are the valves? How can we prevent something major from happening? Or they don't have energy because the diesel tank just got a leak and it has to be stopped. Okay, what's going to happen then? And then go through that process. And so what I'm trying to say is that we are seeing a lot of tools coming into place that I'm not so sure that they have been contemplated or have been added or implemented or considered when we are talking about them. And again, not saying that we are to tell them what they want to learn, what they need to learn, what they should do with their lives, but I'm not so sure that they are aware of they exist. And when somebody's not aware something exists, it's hard for me to believe that they are considering that when they are planning ahead in their communities. And they are, from what I gather, and I'm taking again way too long, but let me finish that with one last thought. They talk a lot. They have a huge, strong sense of community. And that is something that we are not probably considering when we think of them. So yeah, I'm gonna yield to the next person.
I don't know. I still don't have any solutions, I don't think, but I still feel that I still feel on some level our group still hasn't solidified in like a framework or a direction or something. And maybe it kind of has, and if it has, it kind of feels like it's kind of like upper administrative kind of policy discussion, maybe. You know, I haven't heard or seen or even seen the kind of structuring together of like what to me would seem like an entrepreneurial club or something where, you know, we talk about, you know, ideas that we think someone would like to make or that are valid to make or that would be useful. And then, you know, bringing together people that have some experience or skill set in kind of doing these things and looking at, you know, whether it's worth the time, energy, and money. If there's money available, money people, you know, where the finance people, you know, so as well as kind of like, you know, Ryan was saying a little bit about a kind of a little more open, you know, shoot from the hip is kind of, I've kind of, you know, that's kind of how I function well on some level. But yeah, you know, that to me is important, you know, and that's one of the desires I have from this group is to have some fellow thinkers, builders, designers, finance people to, you know, throw some ideas around with and hopefully make some things eventually and create some stuff, you know. There's definitely, you know, the infrastructure side of that, you know, is definitely valid and important and kind of sets the table or whatever, I guess, for entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship to kind of function in a good way. You know, but in the same right, the community thing, you know, talk about serving the community and this and that. And I don't think we have the community, or I don't feel that we have a community. I feel like we have a small, loosely affiliated group. You know, I don't feel like, you know, to say that we need to serve the native community somehow, to me, doesn't make much sense because I don't barely feel like we're serving our own small group very well yet. So yeah, and I love the idea of community, you know, that's one of the things I'm here for. You know, but I don't know exactly how we get there. Yeah, and that's why I just keep showing up, you know. Showing up is, you know, it's something. So so here we are, and thank you all for showing up again. I realize that there's some confusion, and you know, it's loose here, which is fine and it's great. But it feels to me like, you know, and like I said, maybe it's just us all finding our own little bits of community and bringing that together is part of it too, you know. But to me, the metaverse thing, you know, is just kind of like, well, you know, I can cast my line into the ocean of the internet, and you know, who knows who I'm gonna end up chatting up through whatever it is, Twitter or these other platforms. But now even that, it's like I don't really even want to start participating in them so much because they're censored, you know. So right now, so we're back to like a censor proof, distributed, you know, blockchain social platform, which is not invented yet. You know, but that's going to be a huge thing because censorship is real, and damn right, censorship is not American in my book. So, you know, anyway, that's my rant for the morning, guys.
I'm gonna add my two satoshis to the conversation. And what you're saying, Eli, and one of the conversations that I had when I came to the state is that usually in other states people have great ideas, they don't have money. In this state, there's plenty of money, they don't have great ideas. And then digging a little bit more, I'm just putting together comments that I've heard in the past.
I don't even know. I mean, you could say that all you want, but there's a big difference between somebody that has a lot of money and somebody that uses a lot of money. Okay, there's
correct.
a huge difference.
Bingo.
Okay, most people, I would assume up here, just have a lot of money. All right, it's just sitting, growing in their bank account. Number goes bigger, and they feel good. Why would they risk it? Because number could go down. It's no good.
Correct.
You know? But it's risks. You know, it's like it's taking risks on people. That's what entrepreneurship investing is, and it's investing in people and in ideas and in things that may not work. You know, the sure bet is crypto. You know, if you want sure bet with high professionals running the stuff, invest in crypto. You want to build some community, try an entrepreneur, a local entrepreneur. Or better yet, let's all build something in the blockchain space.
Yeah, and all those could be great ideas developed, and then we go into the why has not been developed and why has been the same conversation for years, and seems like we are still in the same place. And it's because, and again, as far as I've been hearing, I would like to have a more formal opinion, but I'm still working on a more defined one. So I'm gonna pass what I've been hearing, like kind of compilation. There are some initiatives that they have been put into practice, great ideas, amazing ideas, fully funded, what you say, Elia, and they burn the money with no results, or at least no tangible results, or no results that
is that here in Alaska? Local Alaska stuff. Okay.
Yeah, that satisfies everybody. And then we have multiple conversations going with natives about oil, about benefits, money, and prices. And so it is a really, really complex state that it has pretty unique circumstances that not other in United States has. Geographically isolated communities, half of the state is isolated geographically by hundreds of miles in a really harsh terrain with different cultures, with unique challenges like energy at minus 40 Fahrenheit is not the same as lack of energy in Florida. And then we have a really peculiar economy where the closest one is Norway, which is not even US, when it comes to where the money has been getting funneled through or to the state and through or to the to the folks living here, and also geographically isolated in a sense that we belong to the United States, but technically we are not geographically, and it's as obvious as even shipping companies. All the ones I know consider Alaska as international shipping, not even U.S. shipping, just because it's easier for them to categorize that. So we have a really unique way, unique state. So everything that we've been hearing, trying, that work in the United States, in the lower 48, sorry, not United States, Alaska's United States, obviously, they have been hard to replicate here because of that. And more than I'm not aware of, absolutely, for sure. So I can understand so many years of trying and trying, so many years of not having results or not as satisfactory as people like to, and that burns people out. I started from entrepreneurs. I met with entrepreneurs that they have been successful, and they all say the same. Well, at some point I had to leave Alaska because X, Y, and Z. And everybody has a story, but as long as we have entrepreneurs that feel that, means that there's something that needs to be solved. So I love entrepreneurship, and I'm with you, Elia. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, but I also realize in my own internal personal search that without considering everything else, I am going to be falling back into the same type of solutions that people have tried and they didn't work. So in the last years, I've been looking at, okay, why they haven't worked. Because, dumping $3,000 or dumping $300 million to research something again, when it's either not a problem or nobody does anything with that report, is not going to solve it. So yes, it's 1 year since we started. We seem to not have a direction, but at the same time, I think we've made great progress considering where we started from. And I will not expect this to be resolved in 1 to 2 years, to be honest. I will say in 1 year from now, I think we will be closer to a more formal entity. But the fact that I can talk with Margie about subjects without any problems, or with you, or with Ryan, I don't think too many organizations have the liberty or the freedom to speak that way without, a problem. So I think that's a good progress. Probably not in a sense we don't have any tangible, but I think this high level conversation about ideas is needed in the state. And I'm happy that we're having it. And honestly, I mean, if you say something, I'm not gonna think that you have any interest for pushing it. It's just your honest opinion, and the same with everybody else. And that freedom of conversation and opinions is good. We can discuss about oil, and it's fine. Nobody's gonna be hurt because and I think that's healthy. There's no interest that are gonna be hurt or damaged in this conversation. Who knows? Hopefully, that's a huge value that we provide. All the same, we talk about the natives that we talk about today, or a new co-working space, and if it's needed, it's needed, and if it's not needed, pretty sure we can say, hey, it's not needed. But if nobody says it's not needed, that means it is. There's no interest behind it. So that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I really,
right.
Yeah, I kind of like go back and forth a little bit about like, do I have a sense of what this organization or this group is? Do I have a sense of like what we're trying to become, what we're trying to do? And I don't know that I have a real sense of clarity about like Alaska version 3 is going to do this and we will achieve this. I think we're almost like, I see this group as being something bigger than just, we're going to take on this project, or we're going to do like this specific strategic initiative. And here's how we're going to see that result and how we will know if we are successful. I think that can be a little bit of a trap, because then it gives you permission to just sort of like drift around and, not stay focused on a thing. But I think that in a lot of ways for Alaska version 3, that's a feature, not a bug. Because what I see happening and what I see the real success of this group is just what Pasquale was talking about. Like we can come together. We now have a group of people that can come together. We have a time that we can come together. We can support each other's different initiatives that we're working on. We can talk through ideas. We can talk about what we think our state needs. And for the type of changes that we're talking about, like shifting the narrative of a state, that's something that's much bigger than what a single person or a single organization can accomplish on their own. It really takes a coalition. It takes a large group, and it's going to take, existing organizations, new organizations, independents, it's going to take everyone. But we, through talking together, we've been able to start to develop a shared set of values, a shared framework, a shared understanding of what it is that we're hoping to accomplish. And then we're each able to take those and then help manifest that through the different activities that we do. And so, maybe that looks like starting an entrepreneur hotspot at APU. For me, that looks like saying, I'm going to go to Mountain View and I'm going to help somebody start up a co-working space there, because I think that that would be really helpful for our state and for our community. I think for you, the work that you're doing in your space is also really valuable. I think that having remote working places is really important and is proving a powerful point for what work is possible in Alaska and what working in Alaska can look like. And I feel stronger knowing that I have a network of people that I can call on and that I can ask for support. I really value that. I really appreciate that. When I think of potential next steps, I think that there could be some sort of a formalization of what is going on, not because I think that being more formal will help to further the effort. I think that there just needs to be some sort of organizational structure so that we can maybe start to get some funding to then start to empower and speed up some of the stuff that we're doing. But I think that I struggle with that a little bit because I'm afraid that that's going to create some strange power dynamics, that it's going to maybe shift where right now we are very horizontal and very, very equal. And I really, really value that. And so I want to figure out how do we keep that going? How do we further that? Because I think everyone's voice is important, and it's important that we try to pull more people in. So maybe that's where I think maybe in the future some meta components could be helpful, as with some of the microtransactions and some of the autonomous organizing. But I don't think that it's there yet. I don't think technology and society is there yet. So it's kind of trying to bridge the gap with the tools that we have available today to get us to the Alaska that we want to see in the future and the world that we want to see in the future. But it's
I would second everything you just said. I feel like even though as an organization we might not have a stated purpose or goal of what we're doing, but I have connected more with the ecosystem in terms of knowing that, first of all, creating this hub at APU is completely on me. Nobody else wants to be involved with it, as far as I know, or it would have happened already. But it's been a dream of mine for several years now, and I think it's something that needs to be done. And without the support of this organization and knowing that I have you guys to bounce ideas off of, I would feel so alone in trying to make this happen. And so for me, this is the I keep going back to silos, but this is the breaking out of the silos. And just like you said, Ryan, what we talk about here helps us go out and manifest what we want to do within our spheres of influence. And so I think if nothing else, I feel like I have gotten so much out of just showing up every week and talking to people and hearing ideas. And even though it feels like we're all over the place sometimes, you know, it's, I have never come to a meeting and not gotten something useful out of it, I think. And, you know, sometimes it's, I'm less interested than others, but gosh, this year that, or 9 months, 10 months that I've been involved in this has just been so valuable to me. So, you know, maybe that is our purpose, is just to support, because I think we're all doing something in the ecosystem. You know, we're all trying to support our own individual groups. So, you know, we're a meeting ground for those who are involved in the community, but not, maybe not involved in the ecosystem through the traditional routes. So, so yeah, you know, I think keeping the conversation going, I think the conversation is the point, actually, now that we've kind of talked about this, is just keeping that conversation going. And how do we draw in other people? It, you know, I think our desire to have, you know, rapid results is kind of blinding us to the fact that sometimes progress is slow. You know, we bring in people one at a time, they come in, they bounce off, they come back, you know, back and forth. But they're still involved in the conversation. And the more people we can bring in, even if they're just sort of stay on the periphery, the more people know about us and what we're doing, and the more people can be brought in through those networks. So, you know, anyway, that's my take on it. I just think what we're doing has value in itself, even if we never become a really formal entity.
Yeah, it's it's good that it's being questioned again and again, Elia. So that was a good comment. I believe that if we just keep working on things and we don't keep questioning why are we doing this, where are we going, does this all make sense? That's a pretty dangerous slippery slope, really dangerous. And again, I'm gonna say it. I think that has been one of the issues that we've had in Alaska. Some organizations were created and now they are just there for the sake of being there, although they shouldn't be there because they had a point at some moment. And, you know, once you've done your job, if there's no additional value, why should we dumping money on that organization? And some organizations are growing, but they don't have the funding because it's just not there. So the constant question, why are we doing this? Where are we going? Does this all make sense? How do you guys feel about it? It's healthy, and it's part of the what I love about this group. It's healthy. At some point, the answer is no to all those questions. Okay, that's good. Goodbye. Let's keep working on our own projects. So the fact that we are meeting without any need to meet, but we want to meet, that's a whole different type of requirement to access. It's good, it's healthy. And I actually agree that we should be even asking that question often, have like a schedule. Hey, where are we going? What are we doing here? And move on to whatever the conclusions are. Piggybacking on everything that Ryan and Andy were saying, and you also are familiar with, like some projects take long time to even take shape and to even start. And this is not a small project that we are into. And some people will take their lives will take them to a different place. Some people may not have the capability to keep contributing, even though they would like to. And some people will join along the life of the project. So I think it's, in a nutshell, that's we do have some projects that are still working on the background, even though, I mean, I know Ryan is working on something, and I'm still waiting for him to say something. But I'm also aware that that's not going to be completed in 2 weeks or in 2 months, most likely. And now, Andy, you were talking about APU, and most likely that will not be completed in 2-3 months. So yeah, big projects take long time and immense amount of patience. So, but yeah, Elia, you're pointing to really good points, that some of them have been the root cause of the issues that we have. And sometimes they seem to be the elephant in the room, but at the same time, we also need to help people understand how things work in the state, because I also realize myself that some of the idea, like, oh my gosh, how come nobody thought about it? It took me some time to find out, like, yeah, because of that. So you will have no work. So no, I had to learn quite a bit before I start criticizing, because I realized that there's a lot more under the surface that I could even think and see. And that made me tremendously humble when I criticize or when I propose things. And geez, I hope it doesn't take me 50 years to find everything that I need. Yeah. So
I wanted
anyway.
to just and thank you all for, I didn't mean, I'm not like harping on this group or anything. I was just kind of sharing my perspective, and you guys have come back with some very eloquently stated statements. So thank you. I just like, so to me, once again, it's like you mentioned that, there's, and I've heard this from people, and I've never seen a dollar, but that how wealthy Alaska is, and how it's just sitting on, hands full of cash, and there's just not a good idea or not a good team to invest in. Okay, great. That sounds like what I've heard before. That's fine. So one thing is like, who is where, who do we don't have any list or any idea, or I don't, like, again, I feel still, even though this is a little group of mine, I'm not in the Anchorage kind of like working scene as well as the physical scene. So I'm kind of like remote from all of that. So this is a little piece of community for me that I have to speak about these kind of things. But it's like, where are the other, do we have any idea how many entrepreneurs are working on a funded project in the state? I mean, do we even have a clue? Is it like 10? Is there 100? Is there 1? Is there none? Do we have, and who, and on some level, who is that, and how can we help them? What do they need help with? Andrea, you're talking about, opening a wing in the, in APU or whatever. That's, in my opinion, is an entrepreneurial project. You've got a goal, you've got an outset, you probably need more team, you probably need more connection and some money and all the things, but that to me, that's an entrepreneurial project, and what's going on in the state, who's doing it? Because I mean, I barely consider myself that I'm doing anything, just because I'm just a lone guy with an idea firing out of his own pocketbook, so but who's doing stuff? The one thing that's captured my ear a couple of times, it's really interesting, is this kelp farming thing. But then once again, who's doing this? And if this is really an opportunity, where's the onboarding ramp? Oh, hey, here, you need to give 2 years and $50,000 or $100,000, and we'll walk you into this business model. Great. To me, let's fricking buy a piece of land right on the ocean and build a high rise right there and start a little town. you know, that is focused around that thing, and then a tourist hub too, you know. That to me, it would build, that would be amazing, you know. That would fit so many things. That would fit a tourism build, that would fill the natural, beautiful development build, you know, as well as a sustainable, earth-friendly kelp farming. That's a triple win, you know. But okay, great, good idea, who cares, you know. But it's just
Yeah.
you know, it seems interesting, you know. It's like, okay, maybe we need 30, 50 people that want to all jump in on this, and we block off a whole thing and go through a whole process and build a little city, man. You know, you build a little tourist city on the ocean, it's going to be a freaking hit. You know, especially you tie in sustainable this, sustainable farming, you know, kelp this, we'll weave you a freaking basket, and, you know, drop your tourist dollars at the plane.
They call that Homer.
Well, but it is, but Homer to me is a bit, I don't know, that downtown spit area is a bit of a letdown to me. But there's so many things, you know. And once again, you know, this is an interest of mine, is city development, community development. You know, it's like, if we don't at least come up with ideas, at least suggestions, you know, then it's just going to be Colorado. We're going to end up in Colorado in 20 years. And that's, you know, it's going to be, you know. I mean, I saw this next thing for that road they're trying to build up on the other side of the Susitna, a mining road, a mining hunting road. It's like, great. Roads are definitely a shitty solution for Alaska. All it does is kill shit and extract, you know. So and that but there's another fight that's getting pushed ahead by the mining companies, you know, which are fully funded and in the politics scene hardcore. So, you know, and that those kind of struggles, stopping those kind of initiatives, takes real community, you know. That takes real groups of thousands of people together that are all hollering and screaming at the same thing. So anyway,
there's nobody raising the flag on that one either. That just is like, they've been working on that for a couple of years now, but it's just been flying under the radar. And now they're ready to throw money at it with the Build Back Better. And we're like, you know, we own property out there. It's like, no, there's a whole point of why we own property out there. It's off the road system. So
yeah, well, you know, and that's Trout Unlimited. You know, Trout Unlimited just did a little splash on my Facebook feed. It's the only reason I'm aware of that, you know. So that's great, you know. But is that probably not even from the local, you know, branch? Maybe it is. I don't know. I'd hope so. Anyway.
I think that, you know, that's kind of what you're describing is both the challenge of our ecosystem as it stands and the opportunity. You know, so what I think Pasquale was pointing out is, like, there have been these projects there where somebody's like, hey, I got this great idea. Here's why it's a great idea and why it's going to make us money, why it's a good thing for the state, why, you know, XYZ for why we should do this. And then somebody or several people have stepped up and invested in it, but the idea falls through because it didn't have the support, it didn't have the buy-in, it was missing stuff. And so the conversations like what we're having are opportunities to build networks, to validate ideas, to help increase your buy-in, to reduce the risk, to take action on these projects. And for us to be able to say, like, hey, here's what's important in our state and what we should be investing in. Here's what we think needs to happen, and then get people connected into it. You know, that was kind of the whole pitch, the whole point of that reverse pitch competition. And so if we can have more stuff like that happen, if we can create more connections, can build more trust, can build more cohesion, then we can start to take on these projects. And I don't think that Alaska version 3 is ever really going to take on the project, but I think that Alaska breeding version 3 can be like the connecting hub for the people who want to take on the projects. And so, you know, right now, you're absolutely right. Like the folks that are proposing projects are the folks with deep pockets that are already doing resource extraction. And, you know, there's probably some need for for more of the resources that we have. Like, we can't quit cold turkey, but at this point, there is no alternative.
Yep.
You know, we don't have, I mean, there isn't like a group or a funding or like a project that has the momentum to serve as an alternative for some of these other projects that are out there. And yeah, so I think that's the opportunity that's there. That's the potential that's there. And I think you're not the only person who has that frustration. You know, I know Andy shares it. I know I do.
Yeah, I think what we do need to do is have those. I think a couple of weeks ago we were talking about potentially having a forum for the political candidates to discuss this particular topic, to invite the politicians to come in and talk about Alaska V3, and rather than throwing our support towards one politician in particular, just opening that forum to have the discussions, and maybe that's what we need to do, is have these forums for different interest groups. Like obviously the political one needs to happen, but what other conversations or what other forums we can help support, like Margie's forum, and what other forums can we sponsor? Can we be the actual creator of? But we do need to start to get out there and do that. And I think maybe the political forum would be a good way to get started, because that would certainly put us on everybody's radar.
Yeah.
And we need the political support. I mean, one of the biggest problems that we have is the state, at the state level, has given some lip service to supporting entrepreneurship here, but there is nothing that they do that truly supports grassroots entrepreneurs. They'll be more than happy to provide opportunities for Hillcorp, and before that BP, and all of these big corporations that come in, but they seem to have zero interest in supporting internal growth. And we've got to change that paradigm. I mean, we've got to change that paradigm, and starting that conversation with the upcoming governor race would be, or even like the senatorial race is going to be big too.
Yeah. I loved Elijah's suggestion of, or just the question of how many entrepreneurs are working on a funded project in Alaska. Right now, like, I don't know where I go to find that information. I don't think that there is a spot that is like collecting that. I think part of the challenge is like, what motivation does anyone have to tell a like central place that information? So you need some sort of like carrot or supports or funding that's there. But I think that could be an opportunity that is in our state. A while back, Kai had the idea of an innovation coalition, and like threw that idea out at the JEDC last year. And I think that is something that would be really useful in our state, some sort of like coalition to collect and support entrepreneurs, collect and share information, and kind of help carry that stuff forward. I think that could be really powerful. Powerful is the wrong word. Impactful, I think, is a better word for it. But it's, it doesn't exist yet. So like, how do we create that? How do we make that happen? But that basic data, it's not there.
That's where I'm coming from. The state doesn't support the grassroots. I think that is something that has to come from the state. The state has to show interest. It can't just be the individuals. I think the state has to have a voice in this, where they are supporting this internal growth, because if they don't, it's going to continue to be this, lack of openness. I think there is a lot of unwillingness to share what is happening or what is going on, because people want to hold that close to the vest, but there isn't value. I mean, it's a misperception, I believe, that being quiet about development is what you need to do. I think it's the exact opposite. We need to talk about it. We need to be out there. People aren't going to steal ideas. I mean, that used to be the way of thinking, that you don't talk about your idea because somebody's going to steal it and make money before you have a chance to do it. And it doesn't work that way. So that's one reason why I think we need to get into that political, so make these conversations happen, because it will raise up on the political side of things the importance that there are people in the community who believe that this is important for the state to engage in this, not just leave it up to the entrepreneurs to do all the heavy lifting. Because but that's kind of the libertarian way of thinking, is leave it to the private folks to do all the heavy lifting, and the government isn't supposed to have a role in that.
And that's fine when there's purse strings that are loose and are flying, but if they're tight and not moving at all, that's just constriction.
Yeah.
I think you're really onto it, or we're really onto it, with some form of the reverse pitch thing, something like a monthly presentation of a topic, and then an open, whatever idea kind of brainstorming or something like that. I think that with that kind of, and with the reverse pitch, it was something like that, which I think was great. It brought more of the community. I was getting a sense of people in the community that were saying things that I want to connect more with and talk about similar interest structures, but then once again, we got to figure out how to snowball it into the next thing and into actually creating those connections and conversations. But in the same right, I think that kind of format might be a good format for us, because it allows us to have off the cuff, blow the industry doors off, but we're not associated as an organization necessarily with it. We're just facilitating a conversation, which I think is great, because, the ideas and the stuff that I share, I don't want necessarily to be reflected through this organization as like the standpoint of the organization. I just want to vent my own stuff towards topics in this format and connect with other people that are interested in this topic. So I think that was a pretty good success for me. I felt like that reverse pitch definitely had connection and energy and progress for me for that meeting, and that something like that, going forward, maybe a monthly thing or at least quarterly thing that we could try to get together and have a conversation, maybe, and then maybe like a follow-up breakout rooms conversation or something like that, I think could be beneficial.
Yeah, I like that, Elisha.
Yeah, me too.
I really, I appreciate I think maybe vulnerability is the right word, because what I was hearing a little bit earlier in this conversation was like, hey, I don't really get what this group is doing. Like, where are we going? What are we trying to make happen? What is happening here? Why are we showing up? Like, you expressed like you're willing to keep showing up. Like you've been consistent. And I think like to feel comfortable expressing that in a group, like it has led to some, like what I think of as some pretty inspiring conversation. And I think like to have a group that has a culture where it is possible to express these things, and then to not like attack it or cut it out or like just ignore it, is a strength. I
Mhm.
think we are stronger as a group for it. We are stronger for everyone, you know, showing up and expressing how they're feeling and supporting each other. And I just, you know, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I've got enough other groups in my life that, like, you know, are very guarded, are very closed off. It's very hard to, you know, say how you're feeling and to feel like it's going to be received or heard. And so I appreciate, you know, you being willing to express that. I appreciate, you know, the group being willing to talk through that. And I think that's important.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Well,
we're in the performing stage of group development, I think.
That's fine. Hey, it's developing. We're still here. We're, you know, we're a lot more, you know, we'd run into each other and say hi in the streets.
Mhm.
I've yet
Yeah.
to meet you guys. Every time an opportunity has come up, I haven't been able to, so hopefully this spring.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we'll get better.
Mhm.
Folks, I'm gonna have to leave. I have another meeting in 10 minutes that I still need to prepare. I like that even I'm gonna drop something on the table. I'm gonna try to be quick. Some years ago, there's a guy, a person called Brad Feld, that he was big into entrepreneurship. He came from Colorado, and he said that for a movement like this, for that entrepreneurship environment to succeed, to be stable and so self-sustaining, it has to come from the roots, not from the government. What it does have to be is supported by government and universities. And it seems like we are into that stage yet. And he did also say that that is not going to happen within just a couple of years. It takes time for that to build. And it's a chicken and the egg. Do you build infrastructure and then entrepreneurs arrive, or you bring entrepreneurs? And because there's entrepreneurs, the infrastructure evolves and grows around them. And that's the chicken and egg that we probably have been facing. So I'm going to leave it down there. We can talk about it a little bit more in the future, in the next meetings. I do see that 49 State Angel Fund, it's an initiative from the municipality of Anchorage to support entrepreneurships. And that leads me with another question for the table, probably for the next meeting, is we have that tool from the municipality. Is there a reason that you guys think that tool has not been used, has been used appropriately? We need more tools like that? Or why is that we keep seeing that we need more support from the state when we have those tools? Means that they are not being effective, we need more, or we need different tools, or we need other type of tools. So I'm gonna leave that down there, and let's see, we can talk a little bit more next week.
Thank you, Pascal. I think
Thank you.
some great points. I threw out Techstars, which is the Colorado organization that Brad Feld is associated with. Another similar coalition building group that I have seen is Strategic Doing. I dipped my toes into that world and really appreciate the way that they approach problems. And I think that we've been employing some of their practices. And I think that we'd be well served to dig into that a little bit more. And when I look around and I see some organizations that are doing things well, I think that Alberta Innovates is a good one for us to check out. I think that we've got lots of different startup supports in different industries with Health Tie and with the Alaska Cluster. But having some more connection and cohesion between that stuff that's happening and between the funds as well. I think that there's an opportunity there, and what Alberta is doing is pretty impressive. I think, speaking to Alaska's libertarianism, I think that a public-private partnership could be a good framing for what it is that we're trying to do. But I don't have the answers yet, and it's more than what I certainly can wrap my head around and talk through at this point. So I appreciate being able to kind of throw those out there, and hope for our opportunity to circle around with those at some point too.
I feel like the idea of, the entrepreneur community and whatnot, just in terms of if there's people that are working on funded projects or searching for funding or whatnot, a kind of an idea, even if it's just, a rough list of some of that, might be really like a bit of a fire for the state. If you show the state you've got 2 entrepreneurs, that are got a $500,000 budget in the state, and we'll at least either look at them or look at how to support them or look at, what is the government doing to try to make them successful, or if these are even businesses that have much of an add-on potential for Alaska. I mean, I've been, I don't know, I just a little, I don't know, uneasy about, the kind of the entrepreneurship of starting a restaurant, you know what I mean, or a coffee shop, as opposed to attempting to, build a company that'll be global or make global products or services, is way 2 different things, and the upside scale of those different ventures, has major differences. I mean, it's like a bit more of an exponential, if or so. Anyway, I don't know, just those kind of ideas or something that, if it was quantified a little bit more, that maybe the community, us, AKA, I mean, in the same right, like, I'm available, you know what I mean? I have time and energy, I'm not 100% in on trying to push my project forward right now. And I'm kind of like, I'm open, if there's people or a team or a group or something that needed some work or some, if it was interesting, I'd be very, very much available, so I don't know. I think that there's something to that. And I thank you guys for your time. I'll lead us off into oblivion.
Thanks, Elijah.
Yeah. Kai did say that we're probably not going to meet next Friday since it is Christmas Eve. So,
Okay, cool.
And the next Friday after that, I'll be on my way to Hawaii, so I won't be meeting with you guys. And it will be Christmas or New Year's Eve as well. So it may be January before we all meet up again. But
Okay.
everybody have a fabulous holiday, Christmas, New Year's. Stay warm. And I will see you guys in the new year anyway.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Yep.
Chat.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.